Good morning, my name is Layla. This is Jare to Jared. On this week's episode, the Jareds will discuss the Demeter, becoming death, the lion god, Ancestry.com, and much more. Okay boys, time to get started.
Bro, we gotta watch that one because that's like actually like I feel like you could learn quite a lot from Borat.
Oh yeah, I was watching it earlier today.
Oh, you did watch it?
Not the full thing. I got like 45 minutes in.
Oh, okay. Shit, I still gotta watch it then.
It's a good recap.
Yeah.
Watch it and we'll talk about it.
Okay, yeah. I'll hold off so that we can have like a full conversation on it.
The aughts though. Very bizarre time, you know.
There's something to it. I feel like now we're far enough away that we can start to like categorize and conceptualize what they were,
Right.
you know?
And bizarre the culture after 9/11. So patriotic and just like
You know?
when Borat goes to that rodeo. I don't know if you remember so well, but
I
man,
think I remember that scene, yeah.
that's freaking crazy, man.
Yeah. No, bro, I remember. I forgot the guy's name, but there's that song that was like, I'm proud to be an American.
Oh
You know,
yeah,
that,
yeah,
that
yeah.
song was like on
Mhm.
the radio every day, all day when I was in like elementary and middle school.
Oh my god, I hate that song.
Hey, I thought you were a patriot.
I thought you loved America, you piece
Thought
of
you loved
shit.
America, bro.
Proud to be in America.
Oh
Yeah.
man, so good.
Um, my friend works at the veterans bar here in town,
Yeah.
and she hates that song. She's like, man, they play it so often, just like everybody always has to do it for freaking karaoke night.
Oh, that's awesome.
Would be weird to be a soldier though and have that like camaraderie, you know, brotherhood, and like be part of
Right.
like a really weird group. But then there's soldiers that really do reject that culture as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the person, you know? Seems like coping strategies. Like, is your coping strategy to like identify really hard with a thing and like pull it in? Or is your coping strategy to like push it away and forget that it ever happened, you know?
Right, right. Man, do you remember back in the day when they hung Osama bin Laden? That was freaking wild.
You. Yeah.
They like put it on TV and shit. They're like, we want you guys to see this, you know.
Where were you when they got Osama?
Yelling and shouting, and not Osama, but
Saddam?
Saddam.
Yeah.
Saddam was the wild one because they like showed it on TV of him like getting hung, and they hung
Yeah.
him in that fucking weird room, and he is like screaming, "Someone!" Some
So
bunch of
crazy.
dudes with like black bags over their face, like some execution shit, man, big time.
Yeah. And they
And
just
then
put it
they
on
show
TV.
him hang, and he's hanging there. It was
Yeah.
crazy too, because back then you could like look that shit up on like NBC.com. Like the
Crazy.
government wanted us to see kids, everybody.
Oh yeah, it's all propaganda, you know?
Crazy, man.
Yeah. Nuts.
What the hell was his name? Saddam.
Dumb.
Freaking Saddam.
I don't really remember like the details of that one, like where I was and stuff. But I remember the Osama bin Laden one because I was in my first year of college. We
Yeah.
were like all stoned playing Super Smash Brothers, and like this other kid in dorms runs in and he's like, "Guys, they got Osama."
They finally caught him, man.
We're just like, "What?"
They showed him too, all shot up in that hole,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember they threw his body from a freaking helicopter into the ocean.
Really?
Yeah, because they didn't want him to become like a martyr and his body to become this like idolized thing. So
Damn.
they literally took it in a helicopter, flew out to the middle of the ocean and just like dropped it into the ocean.
Wow, that's crazy.
Isn't that fucking nuts?
The symbolism.
I know. I mean that's so us though, right? Just like, yeah, this never happened, didn't exist. Osama, who's that? You know? Never heard of him.
And Borat, he's like, I hope that George Bush drinks the blood of every man, woman, and child in Iraq. Not even a lizard will survive in that terrible country. Just like, damn. People
Yeah.
caring though, you know.
The 2000s were weird, man.
Draconian era. God.
Yeah. Bro, and I was thinking too about like the surveillance state that we currently live in, where like I went on a walk like the other night and I'm looking around and I see, everyone has like um video cameras on their doorsteps and all the everyone's cars are like armored vehicles and shit. And then this cop car drives by and is this his like giant SUV. It's like we're a militarized culture, at least in aesthetic. Like I feel like we love military aesthetic because like during the 2000s, like the Hummer, everyone started driving Hummers. Hummers were military vehicles. It was like driving a fucking tank down the road.
Right.
And now when you have like the Ford F-150s, Super Duties, all these like gigantic ass cars, like you wouldn't have had those without the Hummer. I feel like so much of our style and aesthetic in America is military.
From military culture.
Yeah.
I speak a little bit about camouflage too becoming a fashion movement, in the
Oh, yeah.
contemporary period. And again, just taking military as a cultural movement and how it's adapted and filtered through things like dress, music, vehicle design, certainly even on personal levels, how we see masculinity, femininity,
Right.
it goes on, race,
Yeah. But there's also like a friend described this idea to me as like political cosplay, where it's like, let's say January 6th, you have all like the rioters at the Capitol and everything. It's like so many of those dudes are just like super out of shape, like ridiculous looking, and I don't know, voter fraud isn't an actual thing. They just kind of like wanted to have something to rebel about. And
Right.
it's all political cosplay. It's like, we're like pretending you're in the Boston Tea Party or something like that.
Yeah, dressing up in like Party City SWAT team outfit,
Yeah, exactly. It's so weird.
Cool, man. Did you get that at GameStop? Like, hey, yeah,
Right.
pretty silly.
Right.
But again, that's us trying to objectify people, trying to objectify their lives on
Yeah.
a military standard.
Yeah.
I do this, I wear this, and I have these such and such politics.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking about leadership. This is kind of a sidebar. The only leader is the reluctant leader, right?
The only true leader.
The only true leader is a reluctant leader. Why? Because that person is a leader naturally. People follow them even when they don't want them to.
Yeah.
Their actions, their aesthetic, their look, whatever it is, people follow them. Something that bothers them in their brain every time a leadership, something needs to be said or an action needs to be taken or something. They just can't help themselves, right?
Yeah.
Become these leaders. Thus, but they're always reluctant because it sucks.
Yeah.
Having people rely on you and fucking having to do all this shit and people follow you, and if it's on your shoulders and you're just trying to live.
Yeah. And you can trust them, right? I mean, you can trust the reluctant leader way more than if fucking like Ted Cruz or some shit tries to like, tell you what to do. You're like,
right.
I feel like you have an agenda,
Well, yeah, then there's the leaders that ascend to the position for an agenda,
Yeah.
They were bullied in school, or they need a platform for people to listen to them. Freaking daddy didn't love them, something.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is. They think being a leader is a position in which they can exploit other people from which you can if you're a piece of shit,
Right.
And then that's how dictators are born, essentially.
Yeah.
The reluctant leaders, I say, always reluctant just because it sucks. I don't know.
Yeah. And look at like that's in Plato's Republic.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
when they're outlining the republic, the ideal city, Socrates says we need leaders, the philosopher king who's going to be a reluctant leader. And then as they're talking, someone asks like, okay, well, how much do we pay them? And then Socrates is like, pay them nothing. Like it shouldn't be people who are doing it
Right. Right.
for any kind of like transactional thing. It's people who are doing it because they feel called by ethics or whatever,
Right.
some kind of like deeper calling vocation that end up doing it. He goes, if we start giving them, all the riches in the world for leading the state, that's going to call in all these assholes. So he
Exactly.
goes, we want them to live in like austere settings. We don't want it to be a pleasurable thing. We want to attract people who are truly called to it.
Right. Which has always been bizarre to me, the like picking of the Buddha,
Mm.
because you just have to, they go find Buddha reincarnated, right, in a child.
Oh yeah, so weird, yeah.
And
Like the Dalai Lama thing, right?
the Dalai Lama thing.
Yeah.
And that's not conducive to that theory of leadership
Yeah.
because you're chosen as a leader, you know,
Mm.
and
Yeah, and that's bizarre. I think that's one of those things that's just like beyond our cultural understanding where it's like they literally go into like poor people's houses and pick up a baby and be like, this is ours now.
right, right.
And then from what I've heard and read and stuff, I've never come across anyone firsthand who's had that experience, but at least from what I've read, it's like people are psyched about it. They're like, oh shit, our child's the chosen one. Great, here you go.
Right. Just like check him out, you know.
Yeah, just so crazy.
Can you imagine what a like brain fuck that'd be a child? And then all of a
Oh
sudden,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
like, okay, you're gonna go with like these two guys, strangers, have a great life, you know. You're fucking chosen, and then like even like down to the night of, so scared and just like
yeah,
what the
yeah,
hell's going on? Where's my parents?
yeah,
They're telling me to wear this weird robe and like they're shaving my head in a few hours. Like,
yeah, yeah.
just weird, man. What is
Wild,
wrong
yeah,
with human beings?
yeah. And then freaking have you ever heard of Krishnamurti?
No.
He's like a Indian dude, dead now. This is like mid 20th century, something like that. He's pretty old then, but he was raised by whatever like religious group. I think like the Theosophists or something like that. He was like raised to be the chosen one. He was literally groomed to be like the Messiah. You know,
Okay.
um, and I heard from one source that I guess there was some like pedophilia stuff going on there too.
Yeah, yeah.
And so Krishnamurti grows up, and his books are incredible. His talks are incredible. I mean, he definitely is like a pretty awakened figure. But he ends up like rejecting the group that brought him up, of course, and was just like, no, you guys are like he kind of took the Clarence Darrow stance, just the sort of anti all ideology. You create your own ideology, create your own freedom.
Right.
Um, and then essentially just did like books and lecture tours that are just like, stop following people. That's not where you're gonna find truth.
Yeah, yeah.
Look inwards, figure it out for yourself. He goes, the minute you finish this book, burn it because it's trash. It means nothing.
Right, right.
You know?
That a lot.
Yeah. Interesting guy though.
Yeah. Religions are strange place. The other thing I was thinking too this week was, if there is a God, there is there's got to be two. There's probably two in terms of, the masculine and the feminine representation of existence.
I like that.
If there's not two, then God is definitely a they. That's what I was.
Yeah. God said they.
God's they. For sure. God's a
God's
they.
Metro.
God's metro to the max. Full
God's
metro.
Metro.
Right? I mean, because if there is a God according to like the Christian thing, and we're made in said God's image,
Yeah.
well, then he may even have, not just male, female, human, but also the image of also the animals as well, right?
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
sort of like multiple species got it
Right.
with like
Hey.
numerous heads and fucking souls and spirits, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Thoughts on God?
Yeah. Here's a narrative. I was deciding whether or not I wanted to reveal this on the pod, but whatever. Um, so back in January, I did this like mushroom thing and saw a lion-headed god, right? I'm lost in the woods and see this lion-headed god, and I didn't know what to do. So then I just sat there and started breathing and next to a tree, and then um, this lion-headed god comes up, and then I'm just breathing with this lion-headed god, and then I became aware of the lion-headed god, and then he was a gatekeeper figure, and he was like, "Nope, you messed up. You almost stepped through the gate, but not this time." Um, because it was kind of like this awareness and separation sort of thing. Like when I was like almost just in unity with the things around me and with the lion-headed god, um, then I could pass through the gate because it was seeing the unity of all things. But then once I saw it and I was like, oh, I get it now. It's about unity. Then the God was like, nope, you missed it. You lost it. Because in order to see unity, there has to be separation. So then the unity leaves, right?
Okay.
So that's some weird head game I'm playing with myself. And then I find out a few months later, and I got obsessed with this thing. I made a mural on that ceiling mural in Albuquerque was
Yeah.
the lion head. Yeah, that was based on that. And a few months later, I find out that the earliest like statue figure in human history that we've ever found is a lion-headed figure that we found in a German cave from 40,000 years ago.
Right.
So now I'm like, whoa, lion-headed god, that's crazy, and it comes up. I mean, they come up in Egyptian mythology and
Oh,
Egyptian
sure.
lore and stuff. Yeah, so they're around. Egyptian-headed gods are around, but it's fascinating that the oldest, I mean, arguably the oldest piece of art itself is a lion-headed god.
Right. I think even in Revelations or something, God comes down as a lion or some shit like that. There's some like biblical.
Right. Yeah, because there's the four figures, right? It's like the angel, the eagle, the lion, and the
Right.
ram or something.
That's pretty crazy. You met that guy though, but
Yeah, and then I met him again.
Riddle. Oh, okay. Met him again. Good.
Yeah, met him again. We're homies now.
He's like, hey,
then,
man, I was really thinking about what happened, and it was pretty unifying, man.
because then I did this mushroom thing in my room like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, and I'm sitting there getting really scared. I took too much too fast, as they say. I mean, it was like 4 grams. It was like
Yeah, that's a lot.
So we had been talking about like the God dose and all that. I don't know what a God dose is. I know the heroic dose is 5 grams. I don't know if that's the same thing, but
The Skeksis.
yeah, the Skeksis dose.
I think it's 7 grams.
That's insane. I will never do that. That's so
Yeah.
ridiculous. Anyway, so it was 4, and I'm getting freaked out. Like I was getting really scared. I mean, I saw myself as like an old, fragile person on the verge of death. I was like I was like pacing around my room with a hunched back, like like a Skeksis. I was like, what's happened to me? And then I sit on my bed. I was like, gee whiz, I need to calm down. And then I'm getting really scared, like really freaked out. Like I thought I was going to die. I literally thought like I was dying. I was like, oh, I OD'd. I did it. That's it. I'm done. I'm dying.
Right.
You have to eat like freaking 60 grams of mushrooms to die, though. It's like something crazy.
Oh, you gotta eat like a couple 100 grams. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. So, but either way, in that state, I was really freaked out, and I'm just like lying on my bed, and then the trying to breathe and literally checking my pulse to make sure I wasn't dying. And then this lion-headed figure again appears, and I was really feeling the suffering of the world. Like just I don't know, my heart was breaking. I could just feel all of the world suffering, and I was really grieving really hard. And I felt the world dying, right? I felt the world itself coming to a close. And and this lion-headed figure appears again, and I'm going, no, it can't, like it can't die. It's not, I'm not ready, And then the lion-headed figure, he goes, with compassion, he just goes, I'm sorry, but this is what's happening. And communicate, I didn't see it, but communicated to me like, we lost, the world's ending, right? Um, and reflecting on that, I'm not sure if that was a an ego death thing where he was like, you're dying, in this experience, the ego dying, or or if literally external to me, he was like, no, the world's actually dying and we're at the end times. With this kind of stuff, I usually choose to view the personal internal side, because then otherwise you become the guy on the street holding the sign that's like, the end is near.
Right, right. I don't know. I've been watching a lot of Foundations lately. Have you read Foundations, Isaac?
No, what's that?
Just this wild sci-fi that's,
Oh, cool.
religion based and like, war based, and they're essentially trying to start a foundation because this girl like you has visions of the end of the world.
Yeah.
And Harry Seldon, a doctor, predicts through mathematics the end of the world's coming. So he creates
Great.
the idea of creating foundations so we can survive, past the end of the world. And let's hope it's not that, because if it is foundations, then which the end's coming soon. And here's another crazy thing to think too, is I've been like, me and you have both been freaking out, texting each other about the end of the world lately. Aliens, Yellowstone, the freaking cult stop moving. First Reformed,
Yeah. See, and I think like, okay, on one hand, and then in that experience after that, the lion told me that, and then I was able to just let go, and then emptied out into just peace and tranquility and all of that. So I do think it was more about me and kind of holding on too tight, and then needing to let go in order to enter, experience peace, essentially. So I think it was more about me
Did you
than
get peace? Did you feel peace after you came back to the planet Earth? Did you feel relief as say that
right.
a burden was finally, casted away, or
Right. Yeah, because we've talked about this, right? Like, the heroic dose, God dose, silver bullet that just like, cures depression, whatever. And no, is the short answer. The long answer, though, is this is why I prefer a daily meditation practice to, psychedelics, is because daily meditation just sticks more. You're not getting the fireworks, you're not talking to freaking lion-headed gods, but you're just kind of breathing and feeling a bit calmer every day, just a little bit more present and a little bit more calm every day. That's all. It's nothing crazy. Whereas with like the psychedelic thing, it's like, I mean, I really like peace, just wow, like let go into the universe, and like it really is all unity and love and gratitude and God. Wow, so beautiful. And it felt like this like monkey on my back from my whole life has got jumped off finally. Like the monkey on my back jumped off. And then I sobered up more, and I was drawing and just feeling so flowy and great. And then the next day was pretty good, and then the next day was okay. And then honestly just fell back into kind of habitual thought patterns and things like that. And the monkey's back on my back. But I think like these experiences are more like they're openings and glimpses into the future, I think, more than they are a cure. It's kind of like, look, everything is peace is there. It is available. It is there and it is available. Um, I'm not sure, I'm not sure how to like bring that in a more consistent daily way, but having like glimpsed it is like, oh, okay, that's good.
I just well, what are your thoughts on microdosing then? Because that could be
Oh, yeah,
kind
that's
of
yeah.
like a daily meditative, gateway into the realm, but not
Right.
really.
I haven't tried it really. I mean, I've taken very small amounts and then sat and but I don't know because I never was able to like I never like measured it out enough where it's like, you take a tiny, tiny bit where you don't even feel it, but you just happen to have a really good day. I haven't tried that. I don't know. Have you?
Yeah, actually, I was just talking about this with Savannah too. It's actually pretty nice. Like my headaches went away.
Oh, cool. You got headaches?
I get a lot of headaches, like migraines bad.
Oh shit, yeah.
And those went away. I had higher energy throughout the day. And yeah, felt good. But here's the thing. Some days I would like not gauge it right. So it either like not necessarily do anything at all, or it was a little bit too much. And I'd be like at Walmart, just like, oh God.
Right, right. Yeah, it's like
The
how do
fucking
you
Mayan god and
yeah.
the cosmetics department.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wish these gods were a little bit more friendly, like down to earth. And that's what pisses me off about the visions in the other.
How do you mean that they appear so
I've had
infrequently or
visions in
like
the other realm too, especially
sure.
like the demon coyotes and shit like that.
Right, right.
They always teach you something or whatever, but it's always so cruel. It's like the meanest shit in the world. And you always got to be taken to like this really like crazy freaking, a horror movie esque setting where you're facing death because you can actually communicate with one of these so-called freaking psychedelic entities. Why
Mm.
can't it just be like Bill and Ted or something? It's like
Yeah.
we're really down to earth, just like, what's up, guys? I realize it's 2023. I didn't want to freak you out. Okay. Decided to come
Yeah.
like a hipster from Santa Fe.
Oh, that'd be so sick. I would love that.
World's ending, man. I don't know. Let's go have a drink about it. Fucking.
Right, right.
It's
You
always
know what though? This reminded me though, because another part after the like peace and love portion of it, I was considering like, okay, if the world is ending, and I kind of think it is, and I think there is a lot of like cultural degradation, say, I feel like we might have talked about this on the pod, but like, you look at like architecture from 500 years ago, it's like these beautiful buildings that like reflect the culture of the place. Whereas now it's just like these big box stores that could have been like 3D printed or something, it's like, or people just like wearing sweatpants everywhere, where like 200 years ago, people are wearing fucking suits and feathers and cool stuff.
right.
So I think there's a sense of kind of like maybe cultural or aesthetic backsliding or something like that. And then it was this feeling of like, okay, well, if the world's ending, what's my role in it, or what's one possible role? And what came to me was like preservation of ideas, of traditions, of culture, of art, which I mean, take the role of the scholar, right? I mean, there you go. I mean, to be the scholar at the end of the world, it's like, sure, it's ending, but to still preserve it and to still carry something forward, even if no one sees it or whatever. I mean, there's something very profound there, I think.
Yeah. Say more about the scholar there. I was having a good roll of thought of conscious. I need more minute though.
Okay. Um, well, okay. I guess another thing I was thinking is sort of like traditions, preservation of traditions, like, and this is big in Buddhism where it's like you track the tradition, like your teacher's teacher, your teacher's teacher, all those people. And the idea is because it's your teach one teacher is passing it down to the next to the next. It's a very humanistic transition from one person to the next, and there's just like a general sense of respect and honor in that, and I think to do that in the arts as well, people who have, regard their teachers and where they learn their craft, or scholarship too, right? I mean, people are aware of the traditions that their committee members and mentors were working in, and all the way back. I mean, it like academia is a human to human transition of knowledge, which is actually quite beautiful, compared to, I mean, podcasts and YouTube are great. There's nothing wrong with those, but I think there's also something valuable in just the sort of like person to person transition of tradition and knowledge. So even as traditions and knowledge are perhaps being erased, I say perhaps because I'm not firm on that, but perhaps being erased, to keep the lights on. I think that's huge. Whether you're doing it as an artist, if you're doing it as a scholar, if you're doing it as a whatever, I don't know. I'm sure there's some like martial arts and stuff that are still being passed down that are 500 years old, 1,000 years old, to just keep the lights on as everything gets darker, I think is there's an immense value there.
Well, I think it's nice too because it's an oral tradition, which is interesting in an ancient form of passing along, knowledge and information. Anecdotal, even math itself, right, is usually taught through in these in-person classes where you have to verbalize the story of numbers, the language.
I understand, yeah.
In order for people to, futures to understand and more than that add to it, right?
Yeah.
I find even the journey of like becoming a philosopher scholar to be very interesting. How you're really, it's really based on like 50-50 oral tradition and the written tradition where you're reading, but you're also, it's not just the reading, you have to read, but in order to pass or become a fundamental philosopher or scholar of humanity, you must respond to what has been wrote, right? Thus creating your own written tradition and oral tradition. So you must participate in the oral tradition in order to learn how to become somebody who can decipher or come up with valid philosophical concepts. Even Oppenheimer was one of them too. Just like who has theory, who's going to have theory, right? It was his homie who was going to do theory. Freaking, these are all ways of, like you're saying, the continuation of humanity, basically, in the survival of it, nonetheless, and the building upon of it.
Yeah.
Now, when you say the end of the world, that's a little bit different. Why would it end? That's my question. How is it going to end?
Sure.
Is it a philosophical ending? Is it a metaphorical ending? Has it already ended? This is what I was telling Savannah, and she told me to stop freaking her out. Did the world end in 2012?
Yeah.
And we metaphorically are exploded or something like that, or like hit by a giant lava and got decapitated or something. And they say the last 3 seconds of a human brain's life is so flooded with chemicals that it seems like 3 lifetimes or a lifetime that you live before your brain actually stops. So we could be living that right now.
Right.
The world could have ended and is ending right now. It's 2012 now. And the world is ending. We just got fucking hit by a massive rock or drowning or something like that. And this is the final 3 seconds of our lives. Boom. It's gonna just turn off, at any moment.
So I want to get into that. But first I looked up this Henry David Thoreau quote, because what you were saying about philosophers reminded me of this quote, but I couldn't quite remember it. So Henry David Thoreau says, "To be a philosopher is not merely to have subtle thoughts, nor even to found a school, but so to love wisdom as to live according to its dictates, a life of simplicity, independence, magnanimity, and trust. So I like that quote because he just points out, he's like, it's not just hanging out with cool ideas. It's kind of being a renegade. It's being a maverick, to use John McCain's term. It's
No,
it's
it's
being
true.
a
The
maverick.
independence, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But just like living it, you're not just,
And
you're not
respecting the tradition of, like he is saying.
exactly, you're carrying a tradition forward, you're living it, you're it's a higher form of being a human, I think, like literally higher level consciousness. And that's not to hierarchize it. That's not to say that some people aren't capable of living, beautiful, fantastic philosophical lives. I think everyone is, but it's a choice, but he says it's a lived thing. It happens more in action than in words.
It's actually
um
like, if you like history and you like, the novelty of like the Citadel and Game of Thrones and shit,
yeah,
then I think that it's a romanticized life. But I don't think that it's
yeah,
necessarily an ideal one, or like where
for
you'll
sure.
necessarily find ultimate happiness. It may
Right.
be on a higher something, metaphorically speaking, right?
Yeah.
On an independent level, a soul level,
Right.
understanding, but just like the Matrix, do you really want to know that that stake is not real? Is
I actually do.
well, yeah, we're philosophers, right? We spend our whole life in stupid literature programs in grad school, um, writing books and shit. But we like Zion, but not everybody does. And listen,
Right.
living in Zion isn't the funnest. Man, those
No.
beds look uncomfortable. You got to eat shit oatmeal every
Yeah.
day, and the clothing is terrible. God, there's
I
no
think they look pretty cool, actually, those
there's
like
no
ragged ass sweaters that they all wear in Zion.
Oh man, this is terrible. This Skid Row, and then
Oh,
you're constantly getting attacked by robots. It's like,
right, right. You are getting attacked by robots very often. Yeah. In the philosophical realm.
oh, right, right.
Yeah.
Metaphorically speaking.
Yeah, right, right. But but for real though, like, yeah, I don't know. There's just something I really like about that it's about living out, these higher ideals.
This is what I like too about that quote, is
Mm.
it's about an independent renegade, as
Yeah.
who actually is the preserver, or very much, cares for and continues on the preservation
Yeah.
of the tradition of knowledge and
Right.
learning and conceptualization. Anybody could be like, I bet you they make Subway sandwiches, as a form,
Right.
a way of like capitalism, not, you know.
Right. Right.
But that's not being a philosopher. That's just being a freaking high idiot that's eating at Subway and is bored.
Right. Yeah.
It's the person that's actually living according to the traditions of
Yeah.
being well read, being well wrote, and also being well heard in
Mm.
terms of the auditory conceptualization of learning, where
Yeah.
you have not only read X amount of texts and ideas and methodology that people spend a lifetime on, you've
Yeah.
also heard the oral tradition of various philosophers and teachers teaching you, and then getting your input and criticizing and accepting, and the back and
Yeah.
forth. That's what allows you to go on your own and
Right.
carry on the tradition of, being a philosopher, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Living traditions. Yeah. Yeah. So is the world ending, and what's that mean, to go back to that question? Yeah, I mean, okay, in like a very literal way, I mean, it's always ending and always beginning, right? I mean, every breath, you you die with every exhale and you're rebirthed with every inhale, right? I mean, every moment is this unique emanation that's different from the last. So I mean, is the world ending? Like, yes, it just did. And it did again and again and again and again. Like, it's always just in a state of movement, a state of becoming, a state of rebirth. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, definitely. Um, has it ended in that like big apocalyptic kind of way that we think of? Um, yes, that too. I mean, like I'm thinking of okay, what were people feeling leading up to the Industrial Revolution? Right? I mean, I feel like that's maybe similar to what we're feeling now, is this sense of like there's a lot of change. I don't know what this world is anymore. I just spent like 20 years farming that plot of land and saw a freaking car for the first time yesterday. And in a few months, they're going to launch the first spaceship. Like, what the fuck, you know? So, Industrial Revolution, I'm sure that did feel like a kind of collapse for a lot of people. Their world was ending, traditions were ending, and new ones were beginning. Um, that's become more rapid. I think that's the difference, is that an individual's life between, let's say, the year 1500 and the year 500, not that different for most people. Whereas an individual's life between 2023 and like 1993, pretty significantly different, actually. So that turnover rate seems to be increasing. And Alan Moore, the guy who wrote Watchmen and all that, he has a line about culture where he says culture starts as a solid, becomes a liquid, and then becomes a vapor, in the same way that atoms are moving more quickly as a substance transitions from liquid to vapor. He goes, we're in the vapor state. Everything's moving so fast. Now, what comes after vapor? I don't know. Does it just stay vapor? Does it turn back into a solid? I'm not really sure. So, I think we're on the cusp of some like pretty significant revolution of change. I don't know what that's going to entail. I'm not going to pretend to know, but yeah, I think we're on the edge of some significant change for sure.
So go with me on this one. So the vapor turns into a cloud, right?
Okay.
And rains back on and reforms into a liquid. So it's constantly this reformation project, first
Right.
of all. Second of all, I think we're going to come up with a good prescription and diagnoses here of the human condition. The issue is the world hasn't ended, and it doesn't really look like it's going to end anytime soon.
Sure.
And I think that we constantly fear over it and we bring it up and we talk about it. Not to say we shouldn't be like conscious of things like climate control, etc. Right? It's a work in progress, nuclear war, whatever. But, having been conscious of it, and, human beings have been around for a very long time, right? They even found cave paintings the other day, 300,000 years old. We're anxious because it's not ending, and ends are a way to end anxieties, right? Sometimes you need to end a relationship, so you block the person and you delete their number. You don't even remember what it was. You delete your social media, whatever. It's a deletion. It's an end. It's something that can be
there is a kind of
control
release.
over. Yes, there's a release, and it's a finality, right? And we get very stressed out with a society, who we're dating, how much money we're making, politics, who's president, Trump, freaking old man Winters, whoever it is. We're
Yeah.
freaking out. And a finality to that all would be asteroid boom. We didn't have to think about it. Just like, wow,
Right.
we tried,
Peace.
motherfuckers.
Yeah.
We're all dead. Let's freaking jam out to some like Led Zeppelin, have a joint, and burn, baby, burn. Because there is a release in that. There's nothing you can do about it. It's over. The world is ending. Right. But we freak out because it's not going to end and we have no control to end it.
Yeah.
But the only way we can channel that is by engaging in fear talk, essentially, that the world has ended or it's going to end or it's clear that we're fucked.
Right.
And there's arguments to be made that there are, but really, shit, I'm looking outside.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's probably going to be there too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm not saying it's not possible, but I'm saying what's more probable is we create this anxiety because there's a release in it. I went and watched the Demeter today. The Demeter, so good. Freaking the based on the captain's logs in Dracula, the boat that brought his dirt and dwelling to England, unbeknowing, and he ate the whole crew. Scariest part of that whole book. So cool too, that book. That particular scene, because I read it when I was like 14, and I've always said that's the best part of the book. They need to make a movie out of that part. Anyway. There's a good line in there where there's like one of the learned members of the crew, went to Cambridge and shit, and the captain tells him just like, listen, you're going to come to realize that the world isn't meant to be understood. The world is meant to be experienced.
Yeah.
So you start living it, essentially, And I don't know. I think that might have hit pretty hard too. So
yeah, that's a great line. I mean, that's the line. That is the line. I love that. That's something in this past year, I feel like has been something that's been bubbling up for me. Even in like sessions with my therapist and stuff, where it's like I'm trying to like understand something painful, end of the world, right? And it's like, and I've gotten to these points where I'm just like, I don't understand that, and I'm never going to. I'm not ever going to be able to wrap my head around this, that, and the world suffering. Okay, say I use that, like, never going to be able to wrap my head around that. It just seems so, it's like the dark sublime or something. It's something so, holy shit. I mean, life is wildly overwhelming. But then once you stop trying to figure it out and just be with it, then okay, all right, it's just happening. But that's a hard spot. That's a hard sense of peace to step into, because it's, you can't, well, am I going to tell my mind stop thinking? Yeah.
Right.
Ready, go. Stop thinking,
Right. But there is something to it though. Like almost immediately I felt anxiety about a situation in my life while I was watching it. Because I always try to like take control over relationships or whatever. Just
right.
Like, oh, this isn't good enough, or that's not this, or this isn't,
right.
Jerry Seinfeld style.
Yeah.
When really,
piece one at a time.
Stop trying to understand everything and just start experiencing your life.
Yeah.
And then maybe you'll start living with less regrets.
Yeah.
Let's take a pee break. I got to use the bathroom. So we didn't talk about Dracula that much. Vlad the Impaler.
Oh, yeah, I guess we've never talked about Vlad the Impaler.
I was doing research at some of his battles, just a wild individual. Like one battle, they sent like a regiment, right? They invaded a Turkish regiment and they murdered everybody. Like they fucking zero prisoners, killed everybody. So he ordered them to impale all the soldiers and set up them on stakes in a forest. So when the second regiment would come, they'd have to walk through that forest.
Is that where he got the name the Impaler?
I think so, yeah. And apparently, according to records, he like then was like had his chef like serve him food and shit, and he like camped out in that forest for a few days, and, like dined amongst all the soldiers who were impaled. Hey, imagine the smell. And then the like brutality. And then the soldiers walk through the forest and they freaked out and they didn't attack him. They left. They thought he was like some sort of devil or something.
Yeah, I would, right?
And then there was another story where the Turks send a messenger and the messenger comes into the palace, whatever, talking to freaking Vlad. And he tells him to take off his turban, which was like highly disrespectful back then. Yeah. And the messenger refused, take his turban off. So Vlad had the turban nailed to his head.
Ooh.
And sent him on his way. It's just there's these figures in history that are like, what drives someone to that sort of madness? Is it the protection of your country?
No, there's something off, right? I mean, I guess today it's stuff that we would diagnose as like, psychotic behavior or whatever kind of antisocial disorder to the extreme, right? Right. But somehow these people just like find themselves in power, because there's probably a Vlad the Impaler who just like lived out in the country as a freaking peasant and just like maybe like, I don't know, murdered some rabbits or something in a weird way when he was a kid, but didn't do much else because it's like he's a peasant in the woods.
Right.
It's like, but then somehow this guy becomes like the leader of a country.
Right. Exactly.
So then just has so much more power and leeway to do these horrendous things.
Well, it's kind of like Game of Thrones, the Reek and that,
right.
Bastard is king. Yeah. It's like you get this Jeffrey Dahmer dude who ends up being in power, has some disgusting appetites,
Yeah. Hey, man, I mean, okay, take, our presidents in recent years and, and I'm not going to specify any because this sounds like it could have been several of them, but like going to Epstein's Island, freaking Clinton, Trump, hanging out at Epstein's Island, given they're not nailing hats to people's heads, that presumably wasn't going on, but who knows? But they were at least, human trafficking. They're indulging in the human trafficking of young girls in their early teens.
Exactly.
It's like,
yeah.
I mean, that's pretty bad. That's pretty gruesome too.
That's
maybe not at the level of impaling everyone and sticking them around on.
But I mean, look at what we did. We hanging freaking Saddam, throwing bin Laden in the ocean, and like all the drone attacks, and like, oh, by God, the nuclear bomb, 110,000 people, day one.
Exactly, bro. And even that, because I saw Oppenheimer the other day, and like,
oh yeah, your thoughts.
Yeah, there's something very peculiar about. Okay, so he spent really. It sounds like the first half of his life was spent building up towards the perfection of the bomb, and then where we talked about this in last week's episode, where he literally says, "I've become death, the destroyer of." Like, who says shit like that? That's crazy. Right. So he spends the first half of his life leading up towards the bomb, and then the second half of his life trying to warn people against it, and the damage that can be done, and trying to like help develop some like armistice or peace treaties and things like that, because he was, oh shit, look at what I've unleashed.
Right.
um and there seems to be something really peculiar there where it's like, what'd you think you were doing, like, so I don't know if people just get sort of like, I don't know, caught on these missions, these sometimes dark, sometimes light missions, and get obsessed with them, and then achieve them, and it's like a gateway, and then once they're on the other side, they're just like, oops, and then spend the rest of their life trying to put the monster back in the box. He opened Pandora's box, and then spent the rest of his life trying to put the demons back in the box.
Right. Right.
Which is so weird. Did he not know what he was actually doing? What's that about?
Which is probably what becoming death feels like. That's probably a thing, right? In history, throughout history. He's not the one who came up with the quote, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sanskrit too.
Yeah, it's an ancient.
And this probably happens with people like Genghis Khan, Vlad the Impaler, Jeffrey Dahmer, etc. But you get then this same spirit or possession of becoming death, the ownership or the administrator of death, even in a moral or righteous cause like ending World War II. And the feeling when you're have the power over life, that's some Foucault shit right there. I'm sure it's a mind fuck.
Yeah.
You probably literally become death.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's a weird line, right? I mean, let's parse that out. Like I am become death. What can you become death? Was that even like, we can die, we know that, right? But what's it mean to, like, I am become death? Like Grim Reaper death? Is that what that means? Like, okay, I'm responsible for the death of all these people, so now I'm kind of Grim Reaper style, Bill and Ted death. Is it I am become death, like something in me has died, my humanity?
Which is interesting too if you juxtapose that with a religious rhetoric of becoming life. Life's bread, right?
Right.
The body is the life, the blood
Right.
is life. You individuals can also become death. So what does it also mean to become life? And what are the gateways to becoming becoming possessed by such a spirit or thought or ambition, having such a goals?
Wait, I have some thoughts on that, but I just wanted to send a text.
Also, you might want to turn a lamp on. I feel like I'm in a 60-minute episode.
How's that?
That's it's
cool.
Be out talking about death of the dark.
All right, 1 second. Sorry, a homie's moving from New Mexico to Washington, and he's passing through Denver, so he's just letting me know when he's coming through.
Nice, cool.
I am that. I'm sitting in the dark. Man, like freaking Skeksis.
I was seeing the freaking lion god behind you.
Which is so weird. I can't take it.
That is really bizarre.
Yeah.
But it's good though. I think you're really in touch. So what's your ancestry.com?
Oh, okay, get this. Cause okay, literally half Irish, half Italian, which is kind of funny. It's like,
wow.
Yeah, like John McHugh, he did the ancestry.com. I did it too. And he because his wife got it for him as a gift, and he was like, why am I going to do this? I already know I'm like full Irish, and how people always find out, like, no, it actually turns out you have some like Lithuanian or something.
Right,
He
right.
was just like, no, I'm Irish. I know I'm Irish. That's it. Like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but because it was a gift, he does it. And then it comes back and it's like 99.9999999% Irish. And then like 0.00001% English.
So how many countries did he have on his thing?
Like one, bro. He's been in Ireland for like the past
Dude.
10,000 years.
The mountains of Caucasus.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and then I did it, and I'm half Irish, 50% Irish, 47% Italian. I thought it was 50, but 47% Italian, and then with a little mixture of Greek and some other island in the Mediterranean. I forgot what, but
Wow.
so
I couldn't even tell you the number. I have like 14 at least.
oh really?
I'm like 27% 27% Native American.
Yeah.
Northern or like northern native. I can't remember how they put it. So it's New Mexico and like, northern Mexico.
Yeah.
And then I and then it's like 25% Spanish from Spain, like native from Spain, and then mad others like 7% Irish, 8%
Really?
Portuguese. I got freaking Norwegian in there. Freaking.
Ah.
I'm gonna go grab my phone. I'm gonna show you all this shit because it's wild. It's wild.
Yeah, I know, it's interesting.
All right. 27% indigenous Americas, Mexico, New Mexico, and southern Colorado. 25% Spanish, Spain. 12% Portugal. 10% indigenous North America. 6% Basque.
Oh, cool.
4% Sweden and Denmark. 4% England and Northwestern Europe. 3% Sardinia. 3% Scotland. 2% North Africa. 2% Norway. 1% Senegal. And 1% Anatolia and the Caucasus.
What the hell?
Crazy, huh?
That's crazy.
When I showed the girl I was dating, Courtney, at the time, because she paid for me to get this,
Yeah.
she couldn't believe it. She's like, I've never seen somebody in so many countries. You're like 31 flights.
That's cool. And sometimes I feel like I can like get the various energies from you. Like sometimes you feel very Arthurian. You do have this kind of like it's Arthurian, kingly knight kind of vibe sometimes. I could see that. Other times I do see like the Native American, especially in Dion.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dion's more native than I am.
Yeah, yeah. But then I can also see some of the like Mexican in you. I can see some Spanish too. It's weird. It's like I don't know if they're just like energies or styles you can pick up on, but
I can channel the Caucasus Mountains, Caucasian. Irish, Scottish. Pretty crazy. No, it's cool. But here are my thoughts, right? My thoughts were it would be hard for a cultural, traditional, like ancient fucking god, like a lion god.
Yeah.
To haunt me because I'm not necessarily full blood of whatever that god's culture would be. Now, you, on the other hand, maybe you should do some research into like, what'd you say it was? Scottish?
Irish
English.
Yeah.
Look into some Irish English folklore. You might.
I'm way ahead of you. Yeah.
Find some wild fucking lion-headed shit and that's haunting you because you're an Irishman. You just found
So no, I've done this. I went down a whole research journey looking into Irish mythology and history and culture. And I mean the Celtic culture is fascinating. It's beautiful. Kind of this nature-based culture, more matriarchal. Actually, Irish history has kind of a similar colonial history as Native American. I mean, it, just happened in different ways, of course, but like, um, okay, so the Celts, similar to like, indigenous cultures, are very nature conscious and a bit more matriarchal and all these things, have like rich story traditions, all of that. And then the British went over into Ireland and fucked them up like really bad, They had, everyone spoke ancient Irish, they spoke Gaelic, and then were forced to speak English, brought into boarding schools. They did that to the Irish and the Welsh. So there's a lot of parallels there. But yeah, so Celtic culture was this really rich thing. They had the Druids, which were kind of the spiritual priest class, and they were all doing mushrooms. Everyone knew. Like if you look at ancient Celtic art, a lot of them it's mushroom art. It's literally images of shamanic figures eating mushrooms. It's images of like cows or bulls with like mushrooms for their horns. It's like these guys were obsessed with mushrooms.
Well, even the like leprechaun, that's a idea.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
leprechaun's like a weird deity. So there's quite a bit there. And then during this trip, and given I like Celtic knots, and I've used them in some of my art pieces. I like them. The style is really fascinating to me. But the Celtic knot, I mean, there's a deep, deep metaphorical and spiritual significance to it. It's similar to like a labyrinth, it's similar to I don't know, a DNA strand, something like that. And then during this mushroom thing, I was just seeing Celtic knots, just nothing but Celtic knots running through my body, experiencing my DNA as Celtic knots, my muscles interweaving together like Celtic knots, So I was seeing, oh, the Celtic knots. And then the Celtic knot is the drama, is the anxiety and the thoughts that we get caught in, and then we need to cut the knot or undo the knot. So all this imagery was coming through. I saw like an eagle that was adorned with Celtic knots, pick me up and fly me. It's beautiful. So that's all there, and then there's also all this kind of indigenous imagery and stuff like that, which isn't my culture. So I don't know if it's, we've talked about this in the past, if it's like the land's memory or just something I'm interested in, so it comes out. I'm not really sure, but seeing a lot of like hearing the drumming as I'm just lying silently in my bed is fascinating.
Do you think that could be your English generational, coming to the Americas, freaking your vision of the Aztec god ripping your heart out?
Oh, yeah.
Could that be a correlation of like past life trauma of your English family members?
No, I don't think so, because my family didn't come here until the 20th century. I mean,
Stayed in England.
Yeah, genetically in Ireland, but like because my grandma is Irish, she came over in the 40s. My grandpa, I never met him because he died before I was born. He was Irish, came over in the 30s or something. On the Italian side, they were in Italy until like 1910 or something, and then they came to the US. So no, they all stayed on the East Coast. There wasn't any, contact with the Southwest. So I'm not sure, I don't know if I don't know how it all works.
But you're so Irish and English.
Yeah.
Like
Not English.
Not English. I thought it 40% English.
60. No. 50% Irish, 47% Italian, and then a little mixture of stuff. Italian. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah.
Well, that just changes everything up then.
Yeah,
that changes everything up. This kills my conceptualization of generational, colonialism.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, like I said, I mean, like I think the Celtic Druidic imagery was coming through because, I mean, genetically it's there. I mean, I had a vision once that I was in Ireland during my grandmother's childhood. And so I think that's there. That's all kind of genetically, there's genetic memory there of Ireland and Italy. I haven't tapped too much into the Italian side. I mean, I've read some Italian literature and am familiar with some Italian artists, the Renaissance, but never had these like deep, dreams and visions and stuff like that of Italy. It's always been of Ireland or the Southwest.
Weird. We
Yeah.
should go. We should go to Rome or Florence or something like that.
Yeah, right.
Venice. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Because it interests me too, because you have such, distinct bloodlines
Right.
where, standing in the Colosseum, you're probably like, Uncle Jeridico stood in these halls, bought
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when I was in Ireland in 2017 for a week on like a family trip, and I did feel like a connection. There was a sense of just like, well, I think it was a few things. I mean, it's like it's not nearly as diverse as America. So you go over there and there's a sense of just like y'all are related, you all look the same, and there's a sense of, I don't know, like it's a much smaller country, it's a much less diverse country than America, and there's this sense of just sort of like, I don't know, almost like you can't wrap your head around America because it's so big. So there's just a sense of like maybe a little bit more groundedness. But then also I just kind of felt like visiting where my grandparents grew up, it was like, oh, okay, like could kind of feel something.
That's why I think I saw the demon coyote and the sun god at the Cross of the Martyrs, because it's interesting because the majority of my bloodline is from America. I told you I was the most American man.
No, you are. Yeah. Yeah.
And
that should be the title, the most American man.
But really, though, like if we're thinking about past lives, generational memories, passed down, whatever it may be, a lot of my, linkage through the spirit realm is actually Native American,
Yeah.
From the Americas. And I think a lot of my Spanish blood, that comes later. Same sort of thing, like great grandpa took a ship down from Spain,
Yeah.
Or like 1910, whatever, 20th century, early 20th century,
Right.
And then, the mixture of a bunch of all forms. I'm basically the Clarence Darrow of genetics, Could hop around, could hop around.
Yeah.
Yeah. American man is what I
Hey, here's a question for you. Because, okay, so I mentioned during this most recent trip, I was getting a lot of like indigenous sort of imagery coming up, and I could literally hear, like, anytime I've heard like drumming, like, you go to Santa Fe in the plaza, people are drumming, stuff like that. I never like understood the rhythms of it, because my musical ear is so attuned to like, I don't know, just like, I don't know, rock, whatever, I don't know, just like colonial America music. So I never like fully understood like the rhythms and can fully feel them and pick up on them. But then during this trip, I was like, literally heard drumming, and I was like, oh, I get it. And having these images of like dancing around the fire and chanting and all this stuff, right? And then yeah, I don't know, that was just really coming up, and I was like, okay, am I picking up on the land's memory? Is past life stuff non-linear and non-spatial, where I could be like a Chinese girl in 500 BC and then being a Native American dude in 1000 BC and then be this white guy in the US in 2023? Does it bounce around? And then also it's interesting because I also like I am very aware of like, cultural appropriation, all that shit, and think it is like pretty unbecoming, to say the least, when, it's like white people in the Southwest, like wanting to be Native American shamans and stuff like that. But these images are organically coming through. I'm not like, running around the plaza drumming now or something like that. But it's just, I don't know where they're coming from. And maybe it is just from having lived in the Southwest for a pretty extended period of time where it's like, that is a culture that like I'm aware of, so it just kind of like is seated in my brain, those images, and then just kind of pops out, But any thoughts on that?
So the Irish tradition is actually really musical too, right? With the fiddles and the freaking
Sure, yeah.
pipes.
Oh yeah.
Um, when you talk about like the American like rock white tradition of music, that's actually holds roots in African American song, dance, etc.
Right.
So the fact that you relate to that is actually you relating to some sort of actual native tradition.
Sure.
Always already, right?
Right.
Now finally being able to understand, like, so I did the episode of Legends of War, Crazy Horse, right?
Yeah. Oh, nice.
I can't remember which tribe he's from. But I looked up actual warrior drum music from that tribe, that he most likely would have played during his battles,
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
during the battle of with Colonel Custer, murdered Custard, And that music is very distinct because and it's interesting that you finally are starting to understand the rhythm of it all.
Right.
And perhaps it is an adaptation to, or an evolution rather, of having lived in a native space for so long,
Right.
in the Southwest. But I think it might have been something that has always been already inside you, which you could understand and vibe to. And that's perhaps where, we discount psychedelics, where that's something where over time, that's proof of over time of the ability of psychedelics to raise awareness and also allow you to evolve and adapt to a new human understanding, right? Of something like native drumming and the spirit of it, and dancing around a fire, like you said, whatever it is. And really being able to appreciate and participate in said culture, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. In any event, I think it's good, and I think it's something that's always already been there.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Wherever it's coming from, it's like fascinating. And then even the end of the world stuff, actually, I was contextualizing it. And when I say it wasn't me, as how mushrooms and everything was just flowing out, but contextualizing it in terms of like native experience, where it's like, I know native people are still doing their thing and here and everything, but it's like their world, ended, got abducted. And I think there's a wisdom there, where to know what it's like, oh yeah, no, it's like we've seen the world end, And I say that like, respectfully, I know there's still plenty of like native people here and doing their thing. That's fantastic and beautiful. But like that specific world ended, and I think like, you'll see on like native art today, like contemporary native art, like still here, hashtag still here, that sort of thing, where it's almost this like almost does have this kind of trickster sort of element to it, where it's like, look, we're still here, like we didn't end, fuck you, good try, missed us, still here, haha, and like talking about preserving tradition, philosophical traditions, all that stuff, as culture seems to be declining in a big way.
How
Which
about
maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I think there's a wisdom in that, like still here,
how about this?
Mm.
We weren't able to go. Completely different perspective on it, right?
Yeah.
They left, or they were able to travel and we were left, right? back to what I was saying about the anxiety of the end of the world and the calmness and stillness and peace of an end. They were allowed, Native American cultures such as the Aztecs, Mayans, etc., Machu Picchu, right? What happened to them? I'm talking about actual Native American cultures and history.
Yeah.
South American, North American, that disappeared, right? And just
Right.
with the aliens or whatever. They went with Bilbo Baggins or something. People don't know what happened to them, literally.
Right. Right.
They're just one day gone. They were able to leave, and we're here still in freaking purgatory.
Yeah.
Right. We're in Middle Earth still fighting wars. It's the age of men right now.
Right.
What we really want to do is travel back to the Elvish lands,
Hey, I guess that's true because you look at like Chaco Canyon or something, and that's like a place
Yeah.
that it got abandoned, I think around 1200 or something, so still quite a while, few centuries before any European invaders, right? So I mean, yeah, it's like what the hell happened? Where'd those guys go? They dipped out before all that
They
took
were
place.
able to leave.
Yeah, chose to leave.
Yeah. They were invited to leave. We were left.
Oh man.
And now we look towards them and the music and all this as, signs to basically like the Alvish people that were blessed to live forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freaking pain to die on Middle Earth under the sword.
Right. I have this feeling sometimes about like ancient cultures where I'm like, any of them anywhere, that if we could go back and that they would have some kind of answers for us. But maybe they're just as confused as we are, maybe we'd go back, meet up with like, I don't know, some guy in ancient Ireland, and he's just like, no, we don't know what the fuck's going on.
I
Like,
could be even, yeah, it could even be more confused. Just like, what
right?
are
Yeah.
you asking me for, laddie?
Yeah.
Oh, Henry told me that there's real leprechauns. Nobody's ever seen one. And
Yeah, right, right.
Ireland.
Yeah.
Again, I just wish that, like, people back in the day were really nice. The gods that we would see in the Mushroom Land were really nonchalant and nice.
Yeah, and just a bit more conversational.
Essentially, I wish reality was a 90s comedy, family comedy movie. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be nicer if they just zoomed in. Like the aliens too, right? Instead of like popping in here and there, freaking us all out, then leaving. It'd be so nice if they were just like, all right, guys, big announcement. Here's what's going on. Get you up to date on things. Man.
yo, RELAX. Just chill, man. Relax.
Right.
Here. I think you guys are really cool. Can we go to Vegas?
Can we go to Vegas?
Do some gambling. I don't know. I think that music in general, whether it's contemporary American punk, metal, reggae, freaking African, Jamaican, Elvis, Southern, you name it, right? Freaking Persian music. These are all ways of manifesting us into this sense of like an otherworldly sense of peace and like unity.
Yeah.
What was once separated will be one again, back to the dark crystal ultimately. And the more music that you understand and can appreciate and relate to is gateways in which we can relate to, learn, and understand each other. It's not only individuality, but each other's culture,
Right.
perspectives, living in each other's shoes.
Right.
Back to what you said at the beginning of the episode, the oral tradition of continuing to pass things along to each other. Well, this is a way that we stay connected within the
Yeah.
conscious through music, a musical tradition. So,
Right. Hmm. Yeah. One more thing that came up though, the when I was seeing all these different, ancient cultures, whatever images coming through, all that stuff. It's funny because have engaged quite a bit at this point with Zen Buddhism, Japanese Zen Buddhism. And that culture actually doesn't resonate with me fully. I appreciate it because it's a practice that has helped my mental health pretty much. But the culture itself doesn't fully come through, and I was thinking about it and I was like, man, it's a very sober culture too. It's like the Japanese Zen, it's all calligraphy, just black and white. Everyone's wearing black robes. It's not psychedelic at all. They were not doing mushrooms or anything. They were just like meditating all day, but they were not doing any kind of, psychedelic stuff. I mean, even like there's no like Zen music. Like it's very austere. It's very, very pared down.
Sounds like the conservatorium,
Yeah.
But I think maybe where it gets wild and out of the box is through thought,
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's definitely like very philosophically strong for sure.
But see, that's one thing that pissed me off about Jehovah's Witnesses too. There was like the music lame and like, Beethoven and shit. Just like, why can't we be like Southern Baptist freaking
For real.
Jesus, that'd be amazing, man. Holy. I went to one of those churches for college of, world religions.
Oh, cool.
And this guy had pipes.
Yeah.
Dude, he got some freaking pipes when I left. He's like, oh, thank you. Yeah, come back. But again, pursuing things that's one thing I do love about the Native American tradition is the connection with the land, medicine, the artwork, the music, fire, food, the animals, the sky. It's very
it's rich. Yeah, it's beautiful,
visceral way of living.
Yeah. I mean, talk about like going back to that Henry David Thoreau quote where he's like, it's philosophy in action. It feels like that. It's not like sitting around talking about ideas. It's just philosophy in action.
Right. Which I also, I not only relate to that, I also relate to the deep, historical tapestry of Spanish culture. That's right there. Freaking Queen Isabella.
Right.
Starting the Inquisition. Oh my God.
Yeah.
We're back to Pele.
Yeah, bro. You and Dion, you were both fucking chilling in Spain.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Yeah, you were both like English knights at one point. Probably Roman centurions at one point.
Conquistadors.
Playing some flamenco music in like a cave.
Basque prostitutes.
Yeah. You were both Basque prostitutes.
Legion generals.
On behalf of the Jareds, thank you for listening. Like and subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. We will be back next week, and always remember, perhaps life is not meant to be understood. Maybe life is meant to be experienced. Take care now.